Shalom. So I just want to tell you guys about a dream that I had last night, and I will try to get straight to the point. So the dream started off with me standing outside of a hotel, and I knew that that was my hotel that, I was supposed to be in. Another thing that I also knew that it was around the 4th of July celebration. And I was standing across the street on the sidewalk with a large group of other people, and this woman behind me, she started up a conversation with me. And in the midst of our conversation, all of a sudden, the majority of the people that were with us got scooped up by this invisible force and carried off down the road. Now, about a little over a half mile down the road, you could see like the downtown area of a city. So like downtown Atlanta, downtown Manhattan, that's how it looked. Downtown Houston, that's how it looked. And it was nighttime. I forgot to mention that as well. So as they're getting whisked off by this invisible force, and when I say invisible force, it was like something had picked them all up and then moved them, but you couldn't see what it was that picked them up. And on the top of them and on the below them were like the little neon lights that people used to put on their little Nopi cars or their sports cars and whatnot. And once they got into the city, the road kind of curved a little bit and it went behind this big building, this skyscraper looking building. And then all of a sudden, and I also meant to say that when they got scooped up, they were all screaming in joy. And then when they got around the corner behind the building, when we couldn't see them anymore, all of a sudden the street lights went off. So it was dark over there on the street and you couldn't hear them screaming anymore, but you could see lights on in the buildings. And just as I started to question, like, I remember thinking, well, maybe they turned the lights off in the street so they could see the fireworks. That's the other reason why I knew that it was the 4th of July. As soon as I thought that to myself, it got completely dark over there. So you could no longer see the buildings. You couldn't see the road. You couldn't see the sky. It was like a void was over there. It was so dark and it was so thick. The darkness was so thick. It felt like it was alive. It felt like a living being was staring at me and the few women that were left on the side of the street. It was me, the woman that I was conversing with, and at least 2 other women with her. And as soon as that happened, all of us were like, nope. So we started walking back towards the hotel, and I distinctly remember the women saying, we're going inside. So I walked up towards the front door. So in order to get to the front door of this hotel, you have to walk up these stairs, these wide stairs like they have like on courthouses and stuff like that. Well, they said they were going into the building, but then they walked down the street and around the corner. So I never saw them go into the building, but if they were actually intending to go into the building, they weren't intending on going into the building through the front door, because I was going towards the front door and they separated from me. So for whatever reason, as I'm going up the steps towards this front door, I decide that I want to see like if that darkness is still as dark and thick as it is. In order for me to see, I have to go back down the steps because there was something the building protrudes out to where it kind of blocks your line of sight. So you have to walk all the way back down to the sidewalk before you can see down the street again. And as I'm walking, as soon as I hit that bottom step, these big spotlights that are on the sidewalk, they came on and they were bright. So I couldn't even see nothing down there because the spotlights were so bright. So I took that as my sign that I need to go ahead and go inside. So I turned around and I went in to the front door of the hotel. So what Yahuwah was telling me, so I'm going to go back through the dream. So me standing on the side of the road, on the side of the road, and it being some type of Babylonian feast, he said that was him waking us up. You know what I'm saying? He woke us up. We're all gathered there. But then the beast came and took away the majority of those people into outer darkness. Now they're on the outside in outer darkness. And because they loved the lie, they didn't realize that they were being whisked away to their death. So that's why they were screaming with joy and they weren't scared, because they didn't realize that they were being whisked away. And that light, that those neon lights that were on this invisible force that whisked them away, signified false light. I mean, it wasn't even bright enough to light up whatever it was that whisked them away. So it symbolized false light. Then they went into the city of darkness, which is Babel. And then once I started thinking about, them celebrate, because it was those people that were celebrating the feast days. It wasn't the ones that got left on the sidewalk. Once I started thinking, well, they're probably going to go celebrate. They probably turned the lights off so they could see the fireworks better. And then that darkness like consumed them. Yeah, that was that outer darkness that Yahuwah talked about in Matthew chapter 22. So this is the one where it talks about the wedding feast, if I'm not mistaken. And then the first part of it talks about how Yahuwah sent out servants to the wedding guests, and they had every reason to not come. And then they went back and the servants went back and reported to the king that, those that were invited, they don't want to come for whatever reason or the other. So then he instructed them, you know what, go back out and invite whoever will come to the wedding, and we'll have the wedding. And so in then verse 11, it says, and when the king came to see the guests, he saw there was a man which had not a wedding garment. And he said to him, friend, how did you come in hither having not a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, bind him hand and foot and take him away and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So that's what comes to mind when I think about this darkness that was so thick. Also, when you think about when Masha and the Israelites were Masha and the Israelites, were in Egypt. When Yahuwah was tearing down Matzrayim, which represents Babel, there was a part, I want to say it's in chapter 10, Exodus chapter 10, but I can't remember if it's Exodus chapter 10 or Exodus chapter 12. I apologize. But Yahuwah said that he would send darkness upon the land of Matzrayim, but over in Goshen or Goshen, where the Israelites were, they had light. So remember, where me and these women are, there's still light, but there's no light where these people are. It literally is dark. And in Exodus, it says that the darkness was so thick it could be felt. That's the same darkness that I was feeling in my dream. So me and these other three women collectively decided that, we don't need to be out here. So we started walking towards the house or the hotel. So the hotel represents Yahuwah's house. So you remember when Yahusha said, in my father's house are many mansions. I go before you to prepare a place for you, right? So yes, a hotel is not a mansion, nor does it have many mansions inside. But if you think about how a hotel houses a bunch of people, right? So that's the reason why Yahuwah gave that to me, because he's given it to me in a way that I can understand. So you could fit a bunch of people inside of a hotel, because that's the purpose of the hotel, right? So we're all heading towards the hotel. Remember, I said I was headed towards the front door. The front door represents Yahusha and the entrance into the house, which is Yahuwah's house. You remember I said that the women verbalized to me that they were going inside, but when we got to where you would go inside, they go down the street and around the corner, because the hotel is sitting on the corner of the street that we were on. They go down the street and around the corner. So even if they were to go inside, I never saw them go inside, but if they still were intending on going inside, they were not intending on coming in through the front door. So that represents the awakening within the awakening. So me and those women that were still left after that thing came and took them away represents Yasharal. So then I represented the remnant of Yasharal, because the falling away had happened. Those three women fell away because they were not going to come in to the house through the door. They were going to go in some other way, like Yahusha talked about in John chapter 10, the thieves and the robbers. So as I started to go into the hotel, remember I told you that I just wanted to look back, because I was so shocked by what happened with these people in that city, and how it just was shrouded in darkness that I could feel. It felt like a void, and something was in the void staring back at me. I started walking back down the steps, and the wall of the hotel kind of protruded out. So you had to go down to the bottom of the steps in order to see back down the street. When I get to the bottom step, all of a sudden these spotlights appear on the sidewalk, and they turn on, and they are bright. So it didn't matter if I looked down the street. I'm not going to be able to see what it is I was looking for because it was so bright where I was. Like, the light was bright. So I just made the decision, you know what, let me go ahead and get into this hotel. And then I went to the hotel and I woke up. That light that came on represented Yahusha. His Ruach, actually. His Ruach. So that was my sign. The Ruach was like, stay in the light. The Ruach was telling me, stay in the light. So after I went back down, because I had turned away from the door, right, to go back down to check, the Ruach HaQadash was like, stay in the light. That's why the light came on. And so me turning back around and entering into the house was repentance. I was repenting from my decision to walk away from the door, right? Unlike the other 3 women that decided that they were just going to go into the house a different way or to the hotel a different way. So Ruach HaKodesh had that little and I was like, yep, you know what, you're right. Let me go on ahead and get into this hotel. Well, this dream comes probably about a month, maybe a month and a half. I'm not really sure of the time frame. After I was laying on my bed one night and I heard Ruach HaKodesh say, get into the ark. And then all of a sudden I felt like a severance. It felt like there was a line that was drawn in the Ruach. And then Ruach HaKodesh led me to Revelation chapter 22, verse 11, that says, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is Kadash, let him be Kadash still. The thing about that is, this dream is a confirmation of that, because that was me being split off from those women was an awakening within the awakening, because we were Yasharal collectively. That's why it was me and a bunch of other women, because Yasharal is Yahusha's bride. So we represented the bride of Yahusha. It wasn't that Yahuwah was saying it was only women that's getting into his kingdom. That was just, again, he's giving me the dream in a way that I can understand. So that's why it was a bunch of women, the bride. So even like, we all collectively made the decision to walk into the house, to go into the house. The difference is, I made the decision to go through the door, who is Yahusha. They wanted to go in a different way. So that's the awakening within the awakening. We all knew that we needed to be in the house, but only one person out of the 4 decided they were going to go in through Yahusha, the door. That is the awakening within the awakening. And as a matter of fact, those 3 women are part of the apostasy that's talked about in 2 Timothy, and I want to say 2 Thessalonians as well. That's who they represented. So the reason why this is all hitting home, and Yahuwah just told me to go ahead and share this dream, is because I had that dream last night, and then I was on TikTok. I told you that's how I follow a lot of Israelites, and I came across this one of our Koti's videos, and the caption of her video, it was big all across her screen, said the separation is final. And I was like, okay, let me listen. She was literally talking about how the separation is final. Like, Yahuwah has drawn the line in the sand. If you are going to be just, you are going to be just. If you're going to be unjust, you're going to be unjust. If you're going to be Kadash, you're going to be Kadash. If you're going to be if you're not going to be Kadash, you're not going to be, like, the judgment has been made. The final judgment has been made. Like, that was what her video was about, which was my other confirmation. And then I heard a brother that apparently about a month ago, he had also made a video, and that video popped up today. He had also made a video saying the exact same thing. So now that's me, him, and her all receiving the exact same message, that Yahuwah's final judgment has been made. Whatever the side of the fence you were on, that's the side of the fence you're going to stay on. Period. So he told me to share this. Take it to the Father if you want, but that's the dream that I had. That's the interpretation that he gave me. Those people were sent off into outer darkness. The apostasy happened, and then the remnant went into the house. All right. Much ahaba and shalom.